Okay, here we go. Let's make sure my mic's on. So I've been waiting to make this video for a little while now, and I'm very excited. I've been pushing it off for so long to try to get as much sample footage as possible. And here we are, we're making it. I'm so stoked because it's about this little guy right here. This is the Helios 44 to 58 millimeter lens. It is an old Soviet lens made back in the 60s to 90s. That is just incredible, and you can get this thing for like 60 bucks. That's just another cool thing for cameras and for like what we make and for art and stuff. That's just so inexpensive and pretty accessible for most people. Although it is an old lens, it is very, very interesting what this lens gives you. So this lens is known for having some very interesting characteristics that are so unique, and you rarely see it, if at all, in any other lens. So the biggest thing that people always notice when they're shooting with this lens is the like swirly bokeh, I guess you could say. What happens is when you're shooting this lens at wide open f2, you get this very swirly kind of bokeh as it goes towards the outer side of the frame, because in the middle you're getting your nice circle bokeh, and then as it moves out you're getting more of an oval shaped bokeh, and it creates this really weird circle effect, and it's very trippy, but it's super gorgeous. And kind of another strange characteristic that this lens has that I'm not exactly sure what contributes to these kind of crazy characteristics, but the second one that you're gonna notice right away is the flares. The flares are very prominent when you're shooting at f2, like they're there and they're in your frame, almost so much that they're kind of getting in the way a little bit. They can be used really well and make things look beautiful. But what's interesting about these flares is when you're changing f-stop, here I'll show you. When you're changing f-stop, it has a declicked f-stop, which is really nice. But when you're changing f-stop, something very interesting happens with the flares. So you can shoot open at f2 and get crazy flares, crazy blue flares, and a really interesting light leak and softness happening in your frame. And you can adjust the f-stop just slightly, like not even enough where you'd be able to see it here when I show you, and that will get rid of the major glow you have in your frame, like just gone. It's very weird and very strange, and it just adds to this retro-ish feeling of the lens. One thing to note too is, I'll touch again on this because it has to do with another thing, but you might not be able to see it, but right here there's a symbol, and that represents the manufacturer that it came from. There's 3 different manufacturers when this lens was being made throughout its time. One being the best. This one is the kind of the middle ground of the 3, and then there's another one that is more so on the cheaper side. A lot of the cheaper ones will have like moving parts, and like they won't be super solid. The most expensive ones, or the nicer ones, won't. This one's in the middle, and I have nothing moved on this. It's solid metal, and it's very well constructed. That's just something to keep in mind when you are buying this lens. And I've seen that with the better build quality ones, you are getting less of a crazy blowout. It's still there and it's still very prominent, but less so much. I find it's very much prominent in this lens specifically that I got. One thing that I've kind of noticed as well with this lens is it feels like more of a cinema lens, more so than a photo lens. And the reason I say that is because of the declicked f-stop, so you can change f-stop on the go and not have harsh changes. That is very like cinema lenses, and it's got a very, very long focus pull. Like you have to pull this quite a bit to get to anything significant on either side. See, it goes for quite a bit. So that is very like cinema lenses as well. It's not that big of an issue when you're shooting portraits or landscapes or whatever for photos. But it is something that I'm kind of thinking, like I didn't do much portrait work with it yet, but it is something to think about. It's almost, I found, easier to kind of set it at a midpoint focus, depending where you want to be, and just kind of move in and out with the camera. And one thing with the focus is I found the further your subject gets away, the harder it is to get this lens tack sharp when you're shooting wide open at f2. I don't want to say it's impossible, but most of the photos I took were not tack sharp. And it is because you have to use the peaking modes on your camera, and the R5's auto or manual focusing peaking modes kind of suck. They're just a faint red line, and sometimes they're not even really there. So that can contribute, but again, that's something to think about too when you're doing shoots with this. Okay, here's a really, really cool thing about this lens, is this lens was used to shoot some of the car chase scenes in the new The Batman. Is it The Batman or is it just Batman? I don't know. It's one of my favorite movies. It's so beautiful and I could rant about it forever, but it's very cool to see really cheap lenses like this, $60. Almost everyone can get this lens. If you're into the photography, cinematography space, you know how expensive gear can be, and you know $60 is literally nothing. So you can get this lens, and then whatever, like $15 to $25 for the adapter, and you have a lens that people have used on big budget films, and that's super cool. Obviously it was paired with like an Alexa Mini or a Red. I don't know exactly what they used to shoot that movie, but that is something to think about. That's really, really cool. So my little time with this lens has really kind of taught me a couple things. It is so rewarding and so fun to use a 100% manual lens. And I know I kind of talked about this before in my vintage lens video I made a little while ago, but this lens feels different. Like I said, it feels more like a cinema lens because of the pull, but everything feels so well built and so sturdy. And it's just different. It's almost like you can point this anywhere and have a really nice looking image. And I'm very excited to see what I can get with this and really experiment with it, because I think the possibilities and like the things you can do with this are gonna be really, really good, or have the potential to be really, really good. Not everything turns out really, really good. But yeah, I think if you're a filmmaker specifically and you have a cinema camera, like even a budget one like a Blackmagic or an FX3, I think you need to buy one of these and you need to experiment with it. And it is so fun to use because it's so well built. It just feels like a really quality thing you're holding in your hand, and a quality lens when you're using it. Like the only thing that I really have to pick about it is the focusing. It can be because this is the middle ground version. Like if you were to get the more well-built version by the other company that used to make them, it would probably be quite a bit better and you'd have an easier time. But maybe I just need to get better with it. I don't know. I don't like when my images don't come out like crispy and sharp. Maybe that's just me being a perfectionist or whatever that wants the best of the best, but what can you ask for 60 bucks? You really can't mess around with that. And highly recommend it. It's a great product if you can get your hands on one. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I'm very excited to use it more because I haven't had that much time. I pretty much only had this week. I've been pushing doing this like face to face, talking about it till like the last minute. But I think it's gonna reward me, and I'm very excited to use it more and make more purposeful projects with it. Like do more like real video work with it and do like a good set of portraits and all that stuff. But yeah guys, that's all for me. If you like this video, please subscribe. Leave your comments down in the description. I love reading them. Not in the description, the comment section. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.